Hi everyone, thank you for coming to my presentation. I'm Abby Principe and today I will talk about ReadWorks. So first off, I will be talking about what ReadWorks is and I will focus on how I use the library in ReadWorks to encourage my students to read. So first off, I used ReadWorks because it is free. It is relatively easy to create classes and have students join the classes. I use ReadWorks both for guided reading activities and extensive reading. ReadWorks, however, is not for book reports, as it contains mostly reading passages and not novels. So, at most, it will have classic short stories, for example, The Gift of the Magi by O. Henry. So I wouldn't recommend ReadWorks if you're planning a book report activity. So first, like everything else that is an online resource, create an educator account on ReadWorks, and if you already have one, just log in. So when you click on login, there's always two options showing up, student and educator parent. If you are going to create a class, then we choose educator parent. And I will highly recommend that you log in with a Gmail account because ReadWorks works very well with Gmail and with Google Classroom. It even has its own special Google sign-in option, which is easier to use rather than the roster. So, ReadWorks can be used with other email, but I find that Gmail is the most convenient. Again, because you can import your Google Classroom into ReadWorks when making classes. So Google sign-in is a lot easier than the roster, although you can use both. Now, once you're logged in, you have to create a class. And once this class is created, you will generate a class code. For the presentation today, I created test class for Nanzan FD seminar. This is the class that I created. And I created the class code, which is VJ4RV5. So class codes are unique. When you have a class code, you give that to your student. Now, our class is finished, so the next step would be to teach our students to create a library inside of ReadWorks. Now, once you have a class, invite your students to join your class. So give them the code and then create your class. Now, the screen that we are looking at is now the student screen. It is the student login screen, not the educator parent screen anymore. So this time we are going to be looking at what the students will be seeing. So ReadWorks will ask them to use Gmail. So at the start, please inform your students that a Gmail account is necessary. Or if you have a Google Classroom, just import your class list into ReadWorks. This might be the easiest way to create a class in ReadWorks. Okay. So next, again, this is the student screen. Have your students click on the library. Okay, I don't know if you can see that very well, but the student screen has assignments and library. And the assignments is where your assigned readings will show up. So in my case, I have a lot of assigned readings. That is the page. So this is, for example, my students page, and the assignments will show up here. So at the moment, there are no assignments to do. Now, there's a library tab up there, And it's important that you tell the students that there's the library tab here. They click on it, and that's how they create their library. Now, once clicked, this page will pop up asking the students to choose topics for the library. They can choose any, or they can choose all, or they can choose just one. Also, they can change their topics anytime. Next, they also have the option to choose a theme. Okay, when I made this, I didn't really choose a theme. If you don't choose a theme, it'll just default into the blue colored ReadWorks background. The theme is limited to 6. Okay, this seems to be very popular for a lot of students. My personal preference would be this one. Now, the library has several features. It allows students to save their favorites, keep track of what they've read. They can also write a short note at the end of each reading passage. I tell my students to always write something at the end, either an opinion, a comment, or a question. And sometimes I tell them to write new words that they learned when they read the passage. So ReadWorks can also be used as a writing and vocabulary activity, so not just as a reading activity. So I like that. I always tell my students to write a note at the end of every passage that they read. Now this is how the library looks like after it's been set up. And like I said, it's the default. I didn't choose a theme. And there's me, welcome to Abby's library. Usually it's the students' names. And then these are based on the topics that I chose earlier. So these are the passages generated by ReadWorks based on the topic that was chosen earlier. So each student might have totally different sets of reading passages because it's all based on their choices of topics. Now, how do we keep tabs of the students' reading progress? Educators can keep tabs on the reading progress of students quite easily with ReadWorks. So first, you go back to the teacher page, the educator page. You click on Assignments in Progress, and then you choose a class, Test Class for Nanzan FD Seminar, and then you click on Student Progress. So over here is Student Progress. That's where you click on, and then when you click on that, you will see, so for example, this is the Test Class for Nanzan FD Seminar, and this is just an example that I got, which my students already made. And you can see total passages read, library passages read. So this is, you can find out how many passages they read in the library, in their library, and you can see how many words. Also, ReadWorks shows you the total number of words that the students have read. So keeping tabs here, and these are where the students' names show up. Okay, so this is the class, student names, and if you click on a name, you can actually see the student's individual progress. So this is what I use to keep tabs with my students' reading activities, and I find ReadWorks to be very useful in this case. So many students often tell me that they do not like reading, but these same students read voraciously various blogs and websites, so I try to encourage them that reading on ReadWorks isn't all that different from reading websites. I show them short passages. ReadWorks has a lot of short passages, and compare it with an average blog entry on, for example, Line. I hope by doing this, they get to realize that they do not actually hate reading, but it is just a matter of outlook. That they are good, if not great readers, depending on the material. So I encourage them to read many different things. I also encourage them to read in English by paraphrasing the quote given here. I tell them that reading in various languages will give them knowledge that would not often be available if they only read in Japanese. Sometimes it works, sometimes not, but it seems like many students appreciate the explanation I give them about the value of reading English for fun and knowledge rather than for homework. Thank you very much for your time. This ends my presentation. Feel free to message me on Instagram or Facebook or email me. So if there are any questions, please let me know. Thank you.